sometimes after those laugh attacks, like I was just like, holy fuck, like, wow, like, oh, life. I don't know what it is, but it's fucking amazing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Seeking Awe, where I share my spiritual journey. And lately, that's been some deep psychedelic experiences. And so you're in for another treat if that's something that you've enjoyed. Today, I am talking about a mushroom journey that I went on just almost 2 weeks ago now. 7 grams of mushrooms, which for anyone that has some experience with mushrooms knows that's quite a massive amount. It's often referred to as a hero dose. That was coined by Terence McKenna, who's a legend in the psychedelic mushroom use. Holy fuck. Those are the 2 words that best sum up this experience. It seems that I always have like a new word or small phrase to describe these experiences. The first mescaline ceremony was more play. That has still stuck with me in the back of my mind. The last one, the second San Pedro experience, was, I guess, just wow. That one, yeah, just wow. And this one is holy fuck. Yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting, but it was what I needed. It's almost cliche at this point, that phrase, but it's just really true. And it doesn't always mean that, psychedelics, you often hear psychedelics don't give you what you want, they give you what you need. And some people, I think, occasionally interpret that as it gives you like tough, challenging experiences you need. And for me, this wasn't tough or challenging at all. It was not what I was expecting, but it was still pure bliss and just so much like pure expression of joy. The experiences I've had on mescaline were much more like about just pure love, and this one was really just joy and expressing that joy. And in this particular case, it was through laughter. Just like so much laughter. I probably had about 30 to 40 like full-on laugh attacks. Yeah, I'll get into that a little bit later, but first, like, just to kind of describe what the setting was. It was actually a little bit spontaneous, this journey. I hadn't planned it much in advance. This seems to be how I organize most of big things in my life. a little bit last minute, spontaneous decisions. Spontaneous opportunities come about. So sometimes the spontaneous decisions are the best way to live life, really. So yeah, I'd actually been expecting to go back to work, and then suddenly there was a lockdown in Perth, Australia, and it freed up a whole weekend for me. And I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to have one more big journey, because I'd just been off work for a long period of time, and this whole time was kind of designated for, spiritual growth. And I really wanted to make the most of like that, what was supposed to be 5 weeks, which turned into 8 weeks off. And so I was about to go, because I was now had an extra week and I knew I was going right back to work. I was like, yeah, I'd be down for, a big mushroom journey, because that has been something that has been kind of on the back of my mind for a while. And just so it turned out that my beloved guide, the same man that has guided me on the last 2 mescaline journeys, also had that weekend freed up because of this lockdown. He was actually supposed to do a retreat down south, but because of the lockdown, he had to cancel that. And so I reached out to him and his beautiful partner, and the stars just aligned to make this magical day work. So there's lots of things I actually want to talk about in this little video or audio podcast, if you're listening. Later in the podcast, I'll talk about a little bit about integration, kind of what my process is, and also, what sort of like, how often should one do these? I'm not to say that I should be one telling anyone how often anyone should do anything, but in case anyone's worried about my use, then I kind of going to explain a little bit about how I prepare for these experiences, and how I kind of judge my readiness to do another journey, especially if I had just had a recent one. Because ultimately, I really do believe like these drugs, I don't even like using that word, but these medicines need to be respected. And if you don't, you could potentially have some difficult experiences and maybe even setbacks in your own personal growth. So I don't take these lightly, but at the same time, I feel I'm actually quite prepared and ready to do them more frequently than perhaps most people. Yeah, so I'll get into more of that later, but first, the journey. So it was just a kind of small, tight-knit group. There was only 4 of us, me, one other person, and the 2 beautiful guides and dear friends of both of us that were also in the group. So it was very like small, intimate setting. And we did try a few other things before the mushrooms, or 2 other things. So we did an hape again, and if you've listened to my other episodes, then you would know what that is. It's like a tobacco snuff, which is really just like a pretty intense experience that only lasts maybe 20 minutes or so, which is just very grounding. And we had like a beautiful beginning to the ceremony in that way, just doing it outside in nature. We were in this really beautiful place, surrounded by trees and nature, in this big bell tent. And then I also tried something new for me called Sananga. I think that's how you say it. which is like these eye drops, which pretty much do nothing but make your eyes burn. Well, experientially, that's what they do, but they are also a bit of like a cleansing thing, and it's meant to open up your third eye, which for me, I mostly interpret that as basically what my visual field is like with my eyes closed. Because it's not all just black, and the more open your third eye is, the more you begin to realize that it's not just black when you close your eyes. And you throw in some psychedelics and your third eye open, and it's like a whole nother world. Yeah, so the biggest thing with this journey was, it wasn't what I was expecting. So when I planned to do 7 grams or anything above 5 grams, I really wanted to just go deep, and I almost want to put air quotes on deep because it's difficult to even describe what I mean by that. But, I wanted to get lost in this kind of storm of sensations and visions and experience that you can have with psychedelics. But for some reason, this one, I don't know if it was because it was more of kind of almost a social setting, but I had an experience off 1.5 grams of mushrooms that was as deep as this one. However, it triggered in me something that I truly didn't know was there and needed to be triggered. And it was these laugh attacks. And this has kind of started to become a recurring theme in these types of journeys for me, not just psychedelic, but also, in breathwork journeys, which I guess are in a way also psychedelic journeys, but just with air. But I've been having all these laugh attacks, here and there. Had one in breathwork journey and had a couple in 2 different breathwork journeys, and then also had some, beautiful laugh attacks in the last San Pedro ceremony. And these were all just in the last month. So it's kind of this build up, this, lead up to this ultimate series of laugh attacks is what this night pretty much was. At least 30 to 40, full on, some of you, maybe it's been a long time since you've laughed like this, but I'm talking about uncontrollable laughing, as if the type you totally forget what you're laughing about. It's like a full on reset button, and it was just so amazing each time. The reason why I said holy fuck, because sometimes after those laugh attacks, I was just holy fuck, wow, oh, life. I don't know what it is, but it's fucking amazing. It's just this whole surprise, you're alive, you're here. Yeah. I don't even, as you can tell, I'm left speechless, because that's what I was left after each of these experiences to me, it's just this total immersion and physical expression of joy. Each time I had it, I was plunged back into, in a good way, into the peak of the psychedelic experience. It was just truly incredible. And it was always, I always forgot what it was I was laughing about every time. And then that would trigger another laugh attack, because I'd be I can't believe I forgot what I was laughing about again. um, and now each time I'm thinking about this, I'm forgetting where I was. So, where was I? Yeah, it was like this true like physical release. I've been talking a lot in these videos and podcasts, if you listen to my other ones, about this like deep relationship between like tension in your body and kind of your emotional well-being. And it's important to release that tension. And I guess I sort of already knew, but what I've truly like vividly experienced throughout this whole journey was how powerful of a release laughter is. And it's like a full body, like physical, like excursion, like it took some out of me every time I did it. And I think like part of why I was able to have so many laugh attacks like that was because like my body could actually withstand it. Like it was like I had the endurance for that much laugh. So, and as I said at the beginning, the psychedelic experience really gives you what you need. And it turns out my body really needed to release a lot of tension, and it also decided laughter was the best way to do that. I think I just as much could have released it with, hysterical crying, or screaming or whatever. But I think it made a lot of sense to pick laughter because it would bring a lot of joy to other people. To some degree, I'm sure eventually there were moments where it was too much, but very often it appeared to give a lot of joy to the people I was journeying with. And tons of joy to me as well, obviously. Yeah, there's not much else to say about that particular part of it. Just that laughter's like so important. And like, I think it was like my body was designed for it. I mean, everyone's is, but like, I don't know, I have like a pretty deep lung capacity or like ability to yell loud, and like physical endurance is relatively high. And so like all of these came together for just these extreme hysterical laugh attacks, which were just total releases, and so I didn't go as deep into this kind of complete ego loss experience. Well, in a way I did, because every single one of these laughters, I forgot who I was. I forgot everything, There's definitely like mini ego death experiences every time. But it wasn't deep in the sense that I was expecting, But having said that, I still had, the Sananga, I really did think opened something up in me, because I did have some pretty vivid, closed eye hallucinations. Like it was quite amazing. Every time I closed my eyes, it was like I would enter into an entire another universe, like just at the snap of the fingers, and I open them and everything's normal. Like I could, it wasn't even, other times on mushrooms, open eyes, it would be kind of weird. But this time it was like open eyes, everything was quite normal. But closed eyes, it was like, whoa. Yeah, crazy, amazing, beautiful, joy, love. Yeah. So I think it's worth transitioning into the other part of what I wanted to talk about. And it's all about, what's the point of even doing this? Obviously, I talked about the physical release, that tension release, and that I think is very important. In that way, each one of those experiences, each one of those laugh attacks was healing me. You know, it was allowing this tension to just come out of me, and tension that needed to come out, you know, it needed to be expressed. But how do you even integrate some of these experiences, you know, into your day-to-day life, like post trip, you know? I could just say, yeah, I had those releases and that's good and that's all I need. But all of these experiences, it's very valuable to, you know, try and integrate it into your life in some ways. Sometimes it's super obvious. It's super easy to see how you need to integrate it. For example, that my first San Pedro ceremony, it was like more play. Like that was just the clear like sign from the experience, like more play, just play more, dance more, do things you love more, you know, be naked more, just play more. And then the last one was, you know, also a very clear sign of like embrace your grit, embrace your strong, like yang, masculine parts of you, you know, step into the discomfort and all of these kind of messages. But even with those, both those experiences, there's something even more to be gained from the experience itself. And ultimately, it's, for me, the way I like to integrate these is I like to really, really simplify it. You know, some people, it can get really complex and complicated and almost like solving a riddle. And frankly, sometimes I think that can be counterproductive. So if the sign is clear, like the more play and embrace discomfort and things like that, then, you know, start integrating that into your life, you know, add daily like try and bring in daily habits for that. But a really, really simple way to integrate any peak experience, not just psychedelic, but, you know, let's say you had an ecstatic state of flow, you know, day of surfing, or you had an absolutely incredible experience of awe staring at northern lights or atop a mountain. Any peak experience, there's true value in just the memory of that experience. Just let that sink in there. Just the memory. That's it. Memory is so powerful. You know, every time you remember one of these peak experiences, you get like a fraction of that peak experience. You may not be put right back to where you were in that moment, but you are brought back to like a sense of like gratitude or peace or just love or appreciation of that experience, or like just a little taste of the essence of that experience. Just from memory. You know, often when we remember things, we try and like, you know, tell a story about it in our mind. And I think when we do that, we sort of lose its essence. Like as soon as you remember it, as soon as your mind thought of it, then you don't need to think anymore. Then you just sit and be with that feeling, like embody the memory, you know. And when you do that, you can truly just reset like that, you know, like you can be in a terrible mood and have a memory of one of these peak experiences and be brought right back into a peaceful, calm, loving, grateful mood. Perhaps not as high as the peak that you had way back, but it's still complete turnaround from what you may have just been feeling. So like one way I like to think about it I've been trying to like think of an analogy for this, and I like to think about being in this like boat, which is like floating in this like open sea. And each one of these peak experiences, whether it's psychedelics or anything else, is like me setting up this little buoy with like a big spotlight on it. And I just put it there, and sometimes that spotlight's like pointing a certain way, and it's like, okay, it's like redirecting my direction, for like the mescaline journeys, it's like more play. It's like, okay, just, a little tweak, redirection, towards more play. And it's just shining, but I keep moving. I'm moving away from this light. And it's kind of getting dimmer the further and further away I get from it, So every one of these experiences, when I'm right in the like immediacy after it, my memories of them are much more extreme, intense. It's like, the week after a peak experience, every time I reflect on it, it's like it's almost has the same intensity as the experience. And so it's kind of like this light, it's almost as intense as it was when I first put it down. But I get further and further and further away, and sometimes I might set up a new one, and then I follow that one for a while, and I get further and further away, and it kind of fades a little bit. But one other cool thing about memory in this analogy, it's kind of like magic. In this analogy, I like to think about it as if these little buoys with these lights on them, they have a Wi-Fi signal. The Wi-Fi connection between my boat and these buoys is like my memory. And so long as I remember to use it, then I can kind of enhance it, Even if I'm way far down the road from that peak experience, if I remember it and really sit with it more and more and more, connect with it more and more and more over that wireless signal, then I'm brightening it up from a distance. I'm way far away from it, but I'm still able to brighten it up. And for me, this is how I view my integration process for all of these experiences, for any peak experience. And I won't claim to be any expert on integration and psychedelic therapy and all of these things. There's people that have been studying these things for decades, and most definitely have a lot more insight and things to bring to the table that I still need to learn. But for me, this has really worked well. Like, just break it down to the basics, simple. Just remember. Just allow these experiences to bring you more happiness, Ultimately, that's what we want, right? We just want more time spent happy, no matter the circumstances, no matter what's going on in your life. Like, we want this kind of unfuckwithable happiness. Like, that's a word I've been hearing come up a lot recently in kind of the spiritual circle I've been in, and I really like it. It's just, like, become unfuckwithable. And being able to essentially take control of your mind and use memory to bring you joy now, no matter what external experiences are happening, allows you to become unfuckwithable. Because it doesn't matter what else is going on in your life. If you can just go back to that memory bank, get on your Wi-Fi signal and boost up that spotlight, and boom, you have like this, you have joy here and now. So yeah. So this also kind of ties into like how frequently should one do these, or how do I decide how frequently I should do these? for me, it's really like as often as I feel ready for. And it's a bit difficult to describe how do I feel ready? What does ready feel like for me? To me, it's like, yeah, it's kind of just this inner knowing, like, basically, I think if I wasn't ready, I would just know, and it would probably be because there was some part of the experience that just really shook me to my core. And, sometimes on psychedelics, you can have terrifying experiences. Sometimes in the mountains, you can have terrifying experiences. And even though there was peaks to it and there was a lot of value to it, you're kind of a little bit just uneasy about going right back into it. You're not going to put it off forever, but you just don't quite feel ready. So that's basically how I decide how often I should do these. That's kind of what works for me. But I've also been thinking a lot about, like, why, why try all these different experiences? If I already have ways of getting peak experiences without, exploring these pharmaceutical experiences or like natural drugs, if I already have ways of doing it just by going in the mountains, then why explore all these things? And it really just comes down to like curiosity, Hey.
Oh shit. There's somebody in here.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just like making a video here.
Oh, righty.
So yeah, it really kind of comes down to me for like curiosity. I'm just super curious about what can be experienced here. Like what is available to the human experience. And it's like a curiosity of what is, like, why are we here? Who is God? What is God? Who am I? All of these things. And I truly believe every single one of these compounds really, really can provide a lot of insight into these big questions. And so for me, it's like, it's past just healing, although I do believe all of every single one of these can be healing and can bring more happiness to my life. But it's like deeper than that. It's about like understanding reality itself. In a way, I like to think about it, it's like I'm not just healing myself, but I'm like trying to heal society by trying to figure out what it is that we're even here for. So on that note, you have a lot more of these trip reports to look forward to. There's a lot of things that I haven't tried and that I'm very much excited to try. I think DMT is in my near future. I've just heard really incredible things about the world that opens up. Yeah. So there's going to be plenty more, I'm sure. I plan on talking more about breathwork too. So for those of you that don't have access to some of these compounds and are super curious and interested in the things I'm saying, breathwork, like holotropic breathwork or biodynamic breathwork, or it's known by several things. These completely sober experiences are, well, not sober, but non-drug induced experiences are extremely valuable and really tap into the same realm that all of these psychedelic drugs do. It's really, you get high on your own supply. So I want to talk more about those, and kind of a continuation on what I learned from my second mescaline journey, which was like embracing kind of my grit, and stepping into discomfort more often. So I've got some experiences planned for that. I obviously want to go on more hikes and things like that, but I've got this challenge. I wasn't sure if I was going to actually bring this up, because once I say it, it's official. Ooh. So in about a month, no, not even, just a few weeks, holy shit, I'm going to embark on this physical challenge, so long as everything works with work, which I think it will. It's inspired by this man named David Goggins. If you haven't heard of him, he's pretty much this guy who's like all about, stepping into discomfort, staying hard, motherfucker kind of guy. Like, just fucking do it kind of guy. And so he has this really amazing book called Can't Hurt Me. He's done incredible things. He's a former Navy. He's a Navy veteran. SEALs. He was part of the SEAL team. So he's been in some insane training. And he's just such a, powerful, strong person with just like insane energy to just like really pump you up to get going. And so anyways, I could speak about David for ages, but he's got this challenge called 4x4x48, and essentially it is running 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. Yeah, I haven't ran much, and I'm gonna try it. It's apparently just an insane physical and mental challenge over 2 days. Lack of sleep, like, it's just a true journey from what I've heard, of grit and perseverance and all that. And I really do believe that those qualities are so important to cultivate. So I plan on doing that, and I'm looking at trying to do some kind of fundraiser with it. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's all I have to talk about today. So thank you for listening or watching. Hope to see you next time. Ciao.